Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Rachel, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. Now, guys, I am coming at you recording this podcast at 10 p.m. It took forever to get the kids down to sleep tonight, or my 2-year-old down to sleep, coming off of a really busy scheduled week. And this is the first time in a long time where I have done two channeled sessions in one day. But my schedule was booked, and one of my neighbors has been asking me to do a channeled session with his spirit guides. And he was going away tomorrow. This was our last opportunity to do it before he was away for a long time. So I did two back-to-back sessions this morning, followed by a full day of just momming it up. So definitely feeling some of that. And we'll probably do an episode on sort of how to take care of yourself and boundaries around channeling, because usually my limit is one session or one client per day. And I learned this over time because I really have discovered that it can sort of take a toll on, I don't know if I would say my physical health so much as my mental capacity. It does take a little bit of concentration. And so I can find myself feeling a little bit tired after a spiritual guidance session. And so it's a lot for me to then, go and do another one after that and then spend a whole day with my kids. So, yeah, don't do that very often. I try really hard not to do that, but such is life, and the schedule was packed and we just had to fit it in somewhere. So I did do that today. I'm also really trying to pay attention to sort of the theme for the month as the you know energy forecasts come through. I've really been working on trying very hard to hold on to those messages and listen to them over and over again and kind of use that energy forecast as sort of a way of directing or the compass for the month ahead. And so with this month's energy forecast, definitely go back and listen to it if you haven't. It was really beautiful. It was really all about sort of gratitude and appreciating where you're at and all of the things you've called into your life and kind of cultivating this really beautiful energy and feeling of high vibration of and just complete gratefulness for everything that you have created in your life so far, and using that as momentum to then call in the next things that are coming. And in that same vein, I really suddenly kind of got on this kick of decluttering my house, because my husband and I worked so hard to buy our first home. This is the first home that we have owned. And that was a spiritually led, spiritually guided story. And one day, maybe I will feel confident enough to share all of the details that went into that, because there were definitely some rug pulled out from under us moments that got us here, where my spirit guides kind of took the reins to make it happen a lot faster. And so one day, maybe I will share that story on the podcast. But this is a home that I really want to appreciate and have so much gratitude for. And instead, I find myself feeling very overwhelmed by it because of all the clutter and just all of the stuff that we have acquired over moving so many times in our early marriage. And there's just a lot of stuff, and having two kids and not enough time to clean it all the time, right? We just acquire things and don't have time to go through, a bunch of the stuff and throw stuff in the donation bin. So I've been on a bit of a decluttering kick the last couple of days, just wanting to bring peace back into my home so that I can get back to a place of feeling really good, centered, grounded, at peace in my own home, and getting back to feelings of gratitude for my home instead of trying to fix and sitting there in a place of, oh, I wish I had a bigger home so that it wouldn't feel so cluttered, or I wish it looked differently, or I want this other home or something else. It's really like, how can I really get back to a place where I really appreciate and have a lot of gratitude for the space I'm in and the home that I have and work so hard to acquire with my husband. And so that's how I've been sort of playing out a little bit, the theme of for the month of October. Also really been trying to be so present and in the moment with my kids. So really trying to put my phone away when I'm with them, and really trying to just be present in the moment and spending as much time as I possibly can in nature, I'm finding that that is really the thing for me that shifts my energy and my mental state. It's like my automatic. And so I've been seeking out extra opportunities to do so. I enrolled my 2-year-old in a forest school, but he's still too young to be dropped off. So it's a parent and taught forest school. So we've been attending that where we spend, a good 3-4 hours in the forest in the mornings. So we've been doing that a couple of times a week, and doing it with friends, which is really fun. This morning I woke up extra early before my 2-year-old son and opted to walk the dog myself. Normally that's something my husband does. And he usually lets me sleep, and sometimes he'll take the baby with him if the baby wakes up early. And this morning I told him, you know what, I really need that extra boost of just feeling good vibrations. And so he offered to still watch the baby and stay home while my 2-year-old slept in. And I took the dog to the forest and we just went on a beautiful nature trail walk this morning before I had all of my clients today. And so, yeah, just really, really working towards trying to cultivate that feeling of high vibration, that feeling of gratitude, as was sort of expressed in the October energy forecast. So, definitely reach out to me, share with me how are you sort of cultivating those feelings of high vibration, feeling good and full of gratitude for the life that you have, and cultivating this excitement for the life that you currently have. So, I've really been working on that a lot this month and this past week as well. And so that's sort of just a little breakdown of what's going on in my life at this time. But I did want to share one last thing that's kind of come to mind, where spirit guides are really kind of working through me, or with me in maybe not the nicest way. But I felt that I definitely should share it. And so I have shared on this podcast in the past that for some reason, when I am not paying attention to my spirit guides, when they're giving me signs and symbols and I am not listening, or I am overriding the system, for some reason, my guides get really, really physical with me. They get radical with me, and I end up having some sort of physical injury. And unfortunately, I guess I wasn't, I got really caught up in the busyness of life. And I have to admit that even the spiritual medium who has more conversations with her spirit guides, than I would argue the average person does, I was hearing my guides, but I was ignoring my guides. And boy, did they give it back to me. My guides have been telling me for a while now, since we had our second baby, that it is time to slow down, right? That I need to be focusing on my family, that my business can wait, that I need some more help with my children, and that I can't be doing it all. And that's really where we've been at. My husband and I are just juggling it between the two of us. We don't have help with our kids. I work in the morning, and then he goes and he watches the kids, and then we switch off, and then he goes to the work in the afternoon and evenings, and then I watch the kids. And somewhere in all of that, I record this podcast, and we, clean our own house and do our own laundry and do all of the things, walk the dog and, everything. And we don't have any help. And my guides have been telling me forever, like, time to get help, time to get help. You guys are running on empty, both of you, and you don't have time for each other. And and I just kept keeping on. And then earlier this week, I was sitting on our living room floor and my son was jumping on the couch, which I usually don't prefer. I prefer that he doesn't do that. But to be fair, my husband was texting me and I was looking down at my phone, and my son jumped off the couch, launched off the couch, and smacked his forehead right against mine. And guys, the expression that I saw stars is a real thing. I really thought I saw stars. My head was reeling. I actually cried. It hurt so much. And got a little bit of whiplash in the process. Definitely felt my head jolt back. Thankfully, my husband's a chiropractor, so he was able to treat me later that night. But I definitely feel like I reactivated sort of the feelings or symptoms of concussion. And now, guys, this will have been my third concussion in my adult life. Um, and I don't know why my guides always do it by banging me on the head. That's their way of telling me to wake up and pay attention. And it's just so crazy. And so, even me, the spiritual medium who gets messages, presumably from her guides fairly often and is in pretty consistent communication with my guides, I still sometimes override the system. I still sometimes don't listen. I still sometimes get in my own way. And sometimes my guides have to take radical action and kind of knock me back into alignment. And so in this week where I've suddenly had multiple headaches and, not feeling so great, suddenly not feeling very good to be on a screen, not feeling good to be in my emails, not feeling good to be on my phone, I have suddenly been forced back into the present moment of number one, be present, put your phone away when you're with your kids, message absolutely received there. And really realizing because when I do get symptoms of a concussion, I often feel the need to sleep a whole lot more. Like all of a sudden, I just can't stay awake anymore. My brain kind of just hits overload. I get an intense migraine like headache and just need to kind of shut down and go to sleep. And so, can't do that when you're home alone with a 2-year old and a newborn, or I guess he's 5 months old now and a baby. And so, really kind of, it really kind of like, it came to me today. And when I went for a walk in the forest with the dog this morning by myself, I said, "Okay, spirit guides, I hear you. Let me have it. Tell me what it is." And they were like, "We have been telling you this for months and months and months. Like, it's time to get some help." And so I really did take that to heart. And I am on the search for some help, even more so than I thought I needed before. And so trying to make things a little bit easier and definitely hearing the message that I needed to slow down a little bit even if I didn't slow down so much today, business wise, definitely learning that lesson the hard way. So I just wanted to share that with you guys that, what a small rock bottom or rug pulled out from under you can look like when you override the system, when you know what you should be doing, but you kind of don't listen. Unfortunately for me, it always looks like a physical injury. And more often than not, for some reason, it's always a concussion, which not thrilled about because, I really do use my mind quite a bit for my job. So anyways, I thought I would share that. But let's get into today's episode. If you looked at the title, it's all about auras. And the inspiration for this episode really came from a group call that I was having with the alumni for my program. Now, guys, I know that I have been teasing for so long that I have this 12-week program that I help people develop their intuition. And guys, I promise you, the program is in the works and it is coming out. You're going to be able to join and participate in this program once more. I am just working to revamp it. In the past, I've only ever allowed 5 people at a time to take this program, which makes it so limiting for people. And the wait list is getting long, and I just didn't feel it was fair to launch it and do like this big launch to only allow 5 people in. So I'm reworking it in a way that I can accommodate more people. And so that's the holdup. That's what's taking so long. But there is going to be a program. There is going to be a 12-week program. Right now, it is called the Intuitive Power Mastermind. But in the meantime, while I'm sort of reworking it and rejigging it, I am kind of using my alumni as a little bit of like my testers as I work on some of the back end of the technology things. And we do have an alumni community where we gather and we work together on continuing to practice our intuitive abilities and channeling for each other. And so while the alumni and I were on a call last week, I sort of asked them, "What do you want to hear on the podcast?" I'm always open for ideas. Is there anything I haven't shared yet that would be interesting? And there was a unanimous sort of question about auras and can I talk about them? How do I see them? What does it look like? How do you interpret them? How do you cleanse them? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm excited to share it because this is not a topic that I had planned for this year, but I'm really excited to share it because it was sort of like a a byproduct of channeling for me. It's nothing that I actually sought out to develop or a skill that I was trying to develop. It just sort of happened kind of naturally on its own through the process of channeling for so many people. And so I do want to start this episode by kind of offering this small disclaimer that I'm by no means an expert in reading auras. I've not been formally taught to do so. I have not researched it. I have not worked with anybody on how to do this. And there are definitely more people out there who are a lot more well versed in all of the meanings of auras. There are people who take pictures of auras. There are people who actually make a full-time living just on reading and interpreting people's auras. And I am not not that person. However, when I do channel for people, um, your main spirit guide is typically very concerned about your overall energy field and your aura, and they do share with me a lot of information about your aura when I first channel your guides. It's always one of the first things that your spirit guide will tell me or show me about you when I start channeling your guides. And so, because this comes through so much in my spirit guide sessions, I do have a little bit of a take on it. And so, everything that I'm going to share in this episode is really just my personal experience with witnessing auras based on what spirit guides have shown me and told me over the years while I'm working with people. And so, yeah, let's get into this episode. So, I do want to share or kind of start with kind of like a working definition of what an aura is, or at least what I kind of believe an aura to be. And so, for me, I would like to define an aura as your energy field. So, the energy field that surrounds your physical body. So, if you sort of envision your body and then think of sort of this ring of light that kind of exudes off of you, that kind of glows off of you, right? When somebody says, "Oh, you're glowing," that's your aura, right? And so it's sort of just like this glowing sort of body of light that is, or your energy field that is directly around your physical body, sort of like an outline, right? A light outline that kind of surrounds your body. And this energy field, this aura, it's in direct relationship with what's going on in both your emotional and physical body and your chakras. And so, your aura, and we're going to talk a little bit about, the colors and all of those things, but I can say that your aura is almost like a map to what's going on for you emotionally and physically. And so if you're not in alignment, it will show up in your aura. Um, and if you're mentally not doing well, that can be seen in your aura. If you're physically not doing well, that can be seen in your aura. And so it really is sort of a direct reflection of what's going on for you in the present moment. And you can see it in the energy that's exuding off of your body. But your aura can also tell me things like, based on the certain colors and other things that are going on, it can also tell me a little bit about your path and your purpose in this life as well. And those different colors might indicate where your soul has been. And so, again, they're like kind of like this map or this framework to who you are, who you're here to be, and what's going on for you in the present moment. And so I do want to say that whenever I channel for somebody, as I said before, this is the first thing that your main spirit guide will share with me. So sometimes I don't always connect with your main spirit guide. If you're going through something particular, you're learning something new, sometimes a new guide will come in. But most of the time when I'm channeling for you for the first time, it's your main spirit guide who comes through, the one who walks with you right through your whole life. And their concern is always about your present moment, right? And so they're going to share with me your what's going on in your overall energy field. They're going to share with me if your energy is not in alignment and when you're physically or mentally overloaded and how you can start to remedy that. So what they'll start to share with me is they'll sort of show me your aura, show me what's going on, and then they'll kind of start giving advice on how you can remedy and bring your aura back into alignment so that it's shining at its brightest, at its truest color, at its typical truly aligned state. And often this kind of looks like personal care, um tactics, right, or techniques, things that you're really needing for personal care. So they'll often tell me a couple of things like how to up your personal care. They'll share with me if you're leaking energy. They will share with me if perhaps your aura has picked up on other energy from other people and perhaps needs a good cleanse. And if your energy field is sort of holding on to the energy of others, and that has a specific look to it, which I'll talk about. And so, as I said, the state of your aura really is sort of a reflection of everything that's sort of going on in the present moment for you. And when your aura is in alignment, it will shine in a specific way with a specific color and will give me a really good makeup of who you are, and even what your soul, where your soul has come from, and where it's been prior to this lifetime. The other thing that's really interesting is that often when I will channel your guide comes in with an aura, and often, this not always, but quite a lot of times, the aura of your main spirit guide will match your personal aura, or or the or your aura when it's in alignment. So if you're not in alignment, of course, your guide's aura is not going to match yours. But if you are in alignment, both of your auras will be identical. And so that's really interesting too, that when the guide comes in with a specific color all around them, it's usually the same color that's all around you as well. Um, and auras can change based on whether or not you are in alignment. And so they can change color, they can change brightness, they can change a whole bunch of other things. And we're going to talk about that. So, the first thing I wanted to share is what your aura says about you and sort of how you can interpret an aura when you see it. Like, what do those things mean? And so, there are three sort of main adjectives or categories that I would use to define or read somebody's aura. And so the first thing is obviously the color, right? The color of your aura can say two things about you. One, it can give me an idea of where your soul is from, or even your soul's path and purpose in this life. And that's really cool. And then the second thing it can tell me is if you're in alignment or not, or if something in your body is out of whack. So, just based on my own experience, I've noticed over time that the colors are sort of associated with different soul journeys. And I don't know if this is the case. I mean, if you meet somebody who maybe is more well versed in reading auras, they might say that that's not necessarily true, but at least in my experience, I have seen different colors for different soul journeys. So I'll give an example here. We definitely did an episode on this podcast about Earth Angel. So if your soul has previously existed in the angelic realm, or most recently, prior to this life, existed in the angelic realm, we would classify you as an Earth Angel. And every person that I've channeled for who I would identify as an Earth Angel, I can identify them right away as soon as I start channeling for them because of the color of their aura. And their aura, all of these earth angels have the same aura. It's really this beautiful kind of white and gold energy. So it's almost like they are surrounded, completely surrounded by primarily this really pure, loving, bright, and healing white light. It's almost blinding. It completely surrounds them. And then on the outside of that white light, there's like this gorgeous, glowing, golden sunshine like light that surrounds them. And the aura, it just feels warming, soothing, nurturing. You almost like want to gravitate toward it. Being near somebody with this aura makes you want to bathe in their energy. It almost feels like you're sunbathing, or the way you would feel if you enter a warm spa or a hot tub or a sauna, right? That feeling of I just want to take a deep exhale and feel at peace in their presence. And I've seen, and I can see that right away. If somebody is an earth angel, as soon as I see their aura, I don't even have to look at their spirit guides. I know that this is where they're coming from. So that's really interesting. Now, a starseed, on the other hand, will have different colored auras as well. So depending on which realm your soul hails from, will kind of have a different color to me. And I do want to offer this caveat here because I tell this to my students a lot, which is that sometimes colors are different for different people. And what I mean by that is that if I'm channeling over here and somebody else, another medium is channeling next to me, I might see the color blue because blue means a certain thing to me, and they might see the color yellow because yellow means something else, means the same thing to them, but they interpret it as yellow. And so we could both be sitting here seeing two different colors, but the meaning is the same. And so the colors that I'm giving here are what I sort of associate with those particular themes. And so I would argue that it's possible that somebody else would look at your aura and see a different color. But what's more important is what meaning do they attribute to that color? However, I can also say that in my experience in working with some of my students and some of the alumni in my intuitive power mastermind, a lot of the times we will often see some of the same colors for things that determine soul experience. And so It's kind of a little bit hearsay, but I always need to kind of underline that colors can be a little bit tricky. It depends on how you interpret the color and what that color means for you. So I'm purely only sharing what these colors mean for me. That when I see this color, this is what it means to me. And so you may look at that and say, "Oh, whenever I look at my like I'm an earth angel, but I see my aura as this color." It's totally possible, right? It's what does that color mean for you? So anyway, just needed to put that little disclaimer in there. But when I do see starseed, so if I, depending on where you're from, I'll see a certain color. So I always see blue around these souls or the individuals who have souls who hail from Arcturia, so Arcturians. And so when we think of Arcturians, right, these are individuals, who tend to be really well versed in sort of the STEM fields, right? So they're really, really bright, really brilliant, really amazing in science and technology. They're the innovators, they're the forward thinkers. Think sort of people like Elon Musk, right? They're here to kind of invent the new things and bring the world into the future and upgrade technology and humanity from that perspective. And I often see I see a lot of kids actually with Arcturian auras. There just seems to be a lot of them coming through, and I guess that's necessary as the world is kind of up leveling at this moment. Um, and so I will see as soon as I see a blue aura, I kind of know, okay, this soul has hailed from Arcturia. Other star seeds, so the types of star seeds who have maybe jumped around a lot, so maybe they didn't stay in one particular realm for very long, right? They kind of did one lifetime in a bunch of different places, right? In each place. So they kind of went, first I was a fairy, then I was a mermaid, then I was in Arcturia, then I was in Pleiades, and then I was in, this other place. And they kind of just do a lot of jumping. Those souls, which I kind of like to call a little bit more of a galactic soul or galactic being, they tend to have a very purple aura for me. So this actually tends to be the color of my own aura. Many people have told me they see a lot of purple around me, and that's often associated with a galactic being. So someone whose soul doesn't spend a lot of time in any one particular place, right? Just a soul who likes to jump around and go to all of the different realms. I notice that individuals with purple auras as well, this is just, again, my own personal experience, but I do notice people with purple auras tend to be very gifted clairvoyants. So the clair of seeing, right? Being able to see very clearly, that's their sort of main intuitive gift. For some reason, when you have a purple aura, I know you're going to be a really good seer. You're going to be really clairvoyant. And that's the truth for me, and it's been the truth for some of my students as well. So that one's been really interesting. Now, if I see a green aura, I usually see a green aura is, I always see green auras around gifted energy healers. So someone who has a tendency or kind of leans a lot towards doing energy healing. They have a very earthy vibe, right? A very grounded energy. Think of people like my colleague Indra, who has been on the podcast, right? She has a very green aura for me, right? There's just sort of this earthy tone, this beautiful green, and they're here to kind of bring the healing powers of Mother Nature to you. And so I always see this sort of beautiful green aura around them. Often an earthly soul, right? Not necessarily a galactic being, but rather a soul who's had many, many lifetimes here on the planet, typically an older soul, often have this green aura for me. Yeah. And then I do want to touch on what happens if I see a black or a gray aura, because I think some people think that that must mean that that person is a bad person, right? Or that there's something wrong with them, or that they're from the devil or something like that. And that is absolutely not the case. If I see black or gray in your aura, right away, this tells me that there is stuck energy. So there are emotions that have been not looked at, that have been shoved down, pushed down beneath the surface, and they have not been released, and they need to be looked at. Okay. Oftentimes, and the majority of the times, it's usually that there's a strong need for this individual to do some inner child healing. So perhaps, I'll give the example of someone has created sort of like a shield around themselves so that no one can see their fragile inner child is crying out, going, love me, heal me, see me, right? And so they're going to do everything in their power to protect themselves, right? And maybe put on a front and show that they're really strong and that they're really defensive and really combative, right? And all of that is to say, because there's a really fragile little inner child in there, who just wants to be seen, heard, and loved, and has not had the individual maybe has not had the time or tools to reflect and offer a younger version of themselves some healing and some love. And so then I will often see a very dark aura around somebody, which means that they've closed themselves off to being open and receptive to the energy of others as well. And it's usually as a means of self preservation, right? To preserve this little inner child who's feeling very fragile on the inside, somebody who usually has a lot of very low self worth. Will often have some black or gray in their aura. And it really often does have to do with inner child. And it can also be connected with unfelt or just unreleased emotions in general. So, for example, if you're maybe feeling a lot of I guess, frustration on a day-to-day basis, right? But you have not given yourself permission to express that anger, right? You just keep shoving it down and keep on going. And right, there's a lot of people that maybe you're biting your tongue around, and there's a lot of energy that's being built up but not being released. This will show up in your aura of, oh, there's like a built up energy here that hasn't been released. And if it doesn't get released and you kind of keep shoving it down over and over again, I'm not going to look at this. I'm not going to release it. I'm not going to feel this feeling. Sometimes it can stick in your aura, but even more so, it can actually it can actually manifest into physical symptoms later. Um, and so, people might say that, for example, your shoulder pain can be directly related to feeling burdened or that the weight of the world is on your shoulders, right? And if you keep people pleasing and keep taking on more and more tasks and not allowing yourself to have help, oh my goodness, it's like I'm talking about myself right now. Then it can manifest into physical shoulder pain, and until you look at sort of releasing that inner emotion, right? Of like, I can be held by other people. I don't need to please. There's nothing I need to do in order to be loved, and that I don't need to keep running on empty. I can actually take the weight and the burden off of myself, right? Then we can release that black or gray energy from our aura. And then our aura can then shine in its original color, right? And the original brightness that it's meant to show up, which might be a blue or a purple or a green, right? And so the black is sort of just masking or covering the energy that needs to be the energy that your typical aura, the way that your typical aura shows up, or the color that's supposed to be there, it's getting clouded or covered up by unreleased and unfelt emotions. And so easily healed, simply by diving in and, or I guess I should say simply healed, maybe not always easily done. My mentor used to always tell me things, the healing work is very simple, but it's not always easy. And so, yes, it's simple enough in the sense that you just got to talk to your inner child, right? Or you just have to feel the feelings and feel them deeply and let them out, right? Simple, as simply said, not easily done. But it can be released, and your aura will go back to its regular high vibrating color, which is so nice and to know. It doesn't stay like that forever, and nobody is born with a black or gray aura. It's always just a reflection of your emotional and physical state. And again, if you do have physical things that you're not addressing, it's a direct reflection of an emotional state that hasn't been looked at. And so that will show up in your aura as well in those specific places. And so if I see your aura and I see sort of black darkness around your shoulders, I'll know that that's the area that's being maybe physically affected by your emotions not being released. So that's really cool. It can really kind of show me right away what's going on there. And it is really a map to how you're doing physically as well. So that's really cool. The second adjective that I would use to describe an aura is the texture. So when I say texture, I mean, is your aura porous and open, or is it not? And so you can think of it sort of as like, how do I describe this? It's kind of like if your aura was made up of a bunch of little shiny little shimmery specks of light, right? Lots and lots of thousands of them, right? Thousands or millions of little specks of light. Are those specks of light open and separated, right? So that energy can come in between those specks of light? Or are they so close and bunched together that nothing could penetrate them, right? Nothing could get in between them. Okay. So I'd like to argue that most empaths, right, and are individuals who would have a really open or porous aura, right? So there's the fractals of light, or those little specks of light are a little bit more spread out, right? There's space between those fractals of light, or those specks of light. And so of course all of them together will create the color, so I can still see the color of your aura. There's spaces in between. And so when I can see those spaces in between, it means that you're open, your heart is open, you're outward facing, you're open to receiving. And so you can receive energy from others. And so someone who's really an empath is always picking up on the energy of others as well. And then if you're sort of an individual who is really closed off, so that black aura that we talked about, right? That's really dense energy. That means all of those little specks of light have been gotten so close together and so tight because they're trying to create a protective layer around your body, your emotional and physical body. And so then those specks of light really squish together, and it's more like a barrier around you. And there's no space in between those fractals of light. So much so, to the point where maybe it's even creating the color black, or lack of color, right? And so, yeah, it's really, really interesting. And so that will sort of tell me, um, how open you are, how open your heart is, how much of an empath are you. And there is an upside to this, which is that, if if you're an empath, then you can definitely, and your aura is open and it's porous. It means that you're open to love. It means that you're outward facing. It means that you're here to serve others, and you're here to be in the space of others. It also means that you can easily read the emotions of others, and you can pick up on the energy and emotions that are around you and surrounding you of other people. But the other side is that it also, when you have a very porous aura, it also means that you are slightly more susceptible to picking up the energy of other people. And so not only are you able to read the energy of other people, but sometimes the energy of other people and the auras of other people can stick to you like Velcro. And so if there's a lot of spaces in between, right, there's a lot of things that can get through the sieve, if you will, right? And the filter is wide open. It doesn't have small holes. And so you then are often very susceptible to picking up the energy of other people. And so often when I see that your aura is very porous, a spirit guide makes sure to let you know the first time that they connect with you through a session with me. They'll say your aura is wide open, your aura is very porous. You need to have a very regimented or ritualed aura cleansing practice. And I will often see that if somebody has a really porous aura or open aura, that I can see if other people's energy has stuck to them. I can see if they've been around a lot of people that day, because you will see these sort of little dark balls. It's almost like lint stuck to the outside of their aura. Now, I have to emphasize here that those dark balls are on the outside. They sit on the outside, kind of like lint sits on your clothing. It's not in your aura necessarily, because that would be a reflection of your own emotional state. Um, and so these are sort of like the emotions of other people that you may have picked up on. And so somebody who has a really porous aura, often I see earth angels really have the most porous auras, right? They're so wide open. And so, I will see that it's almost like they walked through like a lint roller or something, right? And they were the lint rollers who just walked through the world, and suddenly they've picked up everybody's little things, right? And so they have all of these little kind of black dots just sitting on the outside or the outline of their aura, and it has to be cleaned off, because otherwise it can have the ability to penetrate into their aura and affect their emotional state as well. And so the spirit guides will definitely kind of encourage strongly that you clean off your aura and that you cleanse it. And we will talk about that later in this podcast. How do you cleanse your aura? What does that look like? But just to be aware, like if your aura is porous and open, that there's an upside, which is that you are really sort of in tune with the emotions of others and you can read people really well. You're open and you're loving, but it can also mean that you're picking up on other people's stuff too. If your aura is a little bit more closed off, that's not a bad thing, right? As long as it's not so dense that it's completely black, but it's just got a little bit more of a closed boundary. It means that you're pretty good at creating boundaries, which is a good thing. And it also means that maybe you're better at navigating the world or going through the world without being so susceptible to the emotions and auras of other people. And so it's interesting when I can see someone's aura and kind of go, oh, you were around a lot of people today, because you can just see it all around the outline of their aura. So that's really cool. And we will talk about if that is you, if you feel like you have a very porous aura that's constantly like a lint roller walking through the world, how do we clean that off? We will talk about that. But the last category that I would describe your aura as is, or interpreting your aura is the vibration or the brightness of your aura. Now, this one's a little bit harder to describe because you can only really notice if someone's aura is brighter or dimmer if I have seen or had the chance to see their aura more than once, and had the ability to watch it change over time. So if I'm meeting you for the first time, I won't necessarily, sometimes I can, but I won't necessarily know if it's at its brightest, right? Or if it's a little dimmer than usual, right? Obviously, the more in alignment you are, the brighter your aura is. And of course, if you're coming in with a very blinding, bright aura and you just are glowing and radiating sunshine, then I'm going to guess that you're probably, vibrating very high. You're probably in alignment. And if you're coming in and the aura is feeling very dark and kind of dim and dull and sad, then you're probably ignoring the messages from your guides and you're a little bit off kilter. You're a little bit off your path and purpose. You've been overriding the system for a little too long. You're not feeling great. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's that you're not on your path and purpose if your aura is dim. Your aura is constantly changing based on your emotional state. So even if you're just having a bad day, right? You're having just one particularly emotionally tensing or an emotionally taxing day, right? Perhaps you lost a loved one, right? And you've been crying all afternoon, right? I mean, your aura is going to reflect that you will have a dimmer aura than you typically do. So the color and brightness of your aura is not always an indication that you are off of your path or on your right path and purpose. It is more an indication of where you're at emotionally in the present moment, I would say. And so then again, you can only gauge if you're whether it's having to do with your path and purpose is if I'm witnessing your aura every single day, right, over a specific period of time. And if over that course of time, I'm seeing your aura gradually get brighter and brighter and brighter, then that's probably a direct relationship to you being more and more in alignment with your path and purpose and doing things that feel good for you. And then if you have an off day, yes, your aura will get a little bit dimmer that day, and it will go back. And so what I get to see with clients is that when I work with clients over time, so I will have clients who will come and see me maybe once a month or once every 3 months, and I'll see them several times through the course of the year. As they are starting to take the advice of their spirit guides and put those action steps into action and starting to kind of see their life fall into place and fall into alignment, I will see their aura change and get so much brighter over time. And it's such a beautiful progression to see and witness. And so it's really, really beautiful to see that you can actually see their personal growth in and are able to sort of scale it based on the brightness of their aura and how often it's showing up as that bright version of themselves. Again, with the small caveat, of course, if you have a down day, it's going to be dimmer, but over the grand scheme of things, the more often than not, it's going to be brighter as you step into alignment. So that's really, really cool, and fun to see. So I'm sure a lot of you are saying, well, that's great, Jessica. Like, it's so nice that you can see people's auras and that you can gauge and read them, right? But how do I see my own aura, right? Like, what does that mean for me? It's great. Like, if I can do a session with you, that's fantastic. And you can tell me what's going on in my aura, but how do I go about seeing my own? And so I'm going to do my best to share with you sort of some things that you can do to start to try and see your own aura. I think that this practice is actually a really good tool to put in your arsenal of trying to develop your intuitive abilities. I think that it is actually a lot easier than you think to see your aura. And this is often one of the things that I will have my students do in my program near the beginning of the program because it actually is so accessible. And so before we talk about specific tools and techniques, I really need you to start off with the belief that it is easy to do. It is actually very, very easy to see to see an aura, yours or anybody else's. It is very important that you believe this. It is so easy to see an aura that even someone who doesn't claim to be an intuitive, or someone who isn't seeking out to develop their intuitive abilities, can access your aura and other people's auras. So let's start there with that baseline. Connecting with your aura and reading your aura or the aura of somebody else is a very easy skill to acquire. Okay, so we're going to start there. The second thing I want to say is that if you were going to attempt it, and you do want to try and see an aura, I actually want you to start by trying to see someone else's aura before you try this on yourself, because you're more likely to be less biased and not judge that you're making it up if you are looking at somebody else's aura. You know too much about your own life and what's going on, and you have too many preconceived notions of what you think it might look like, and therefore you're not going to trust yourself based on what you see. So start by trying to read someone else's aura. You do not need someone's permission to read their aura, because all you have to do is what I'm about to tell you, and you will see it regardless, right? I can see you walking. Anybody can walk around in any public space, and their aura is accessible to you. It's literally radiating off of them, and it's really just a matter of flexing that muscle to see it. So and when I say see, I do want to say that you can see people's auras with your eyes open or with your eyes closed. It really doesn't matter. And I say see, like as in see the same way that I describe clairvoyance seeing. And so what I mean by that, right, is that it's seeing in your mind's eye, seeing in your imagination, seeing in your head space, right? Not the same way as seeing a physical object in front of your face, right? It's the same way that you would see a descriptive paragraph narrated in your mind, how you would picture that paragraph as you were reading an illustration in a book, and how do you visualize that in your mind? It's the same way you would experience a make-believe experience, that you would, that you would dream up a universe in your mind, all the same thing. Okay. Does it mean that you made it up? No, it just means that you need to trust that your mind is that powerful. Okay. And so all you really have to do is you're going to combine your clairvoyance with your sense of feeling. Okay. So you're going to start by taking a few deep breaths, right? You want to get grounded and get centered, move away from the chattery thoughts that plague your mind on a daily basis, right? A few deep breaths, maybe go for a little walk. You don't even have to do that. Really, a few deep breaths is all it really takes. Again, seeing an aura is actually very simple to do and very easy. So you don't need a huge ritual to get into it. Okay. And then this is where you're going to combine your clairvoyance and your sense of feeling. So it helps by starting to describe somebody's energy. So if you know this person or you just met them, I want you to think about their personality. Okay. And even if you haven't even spoken a word to them, I would recommend maybe doing it with somebody who you know a little bit. But even if it's a total stranger that you're sitting next to on the bus, you can still do this. You want to start by dreaming up or thinking about their personality. Does this person feel warm and nurturing to you? Or does this person feel sparkly and bubbly? And again, I want you to lean into the feeling of it, right? You haven't seen anything yet. I just want you to go by a feeling. Do they feel solemn and thoughtful, right? Do they feel maybe very logic based, right? Just by gauging their energy, right? You're sitting next to them. What do you pick up on without actually seeing anything? When you sit near them, when you look at them, what do you sense about who they are and what they feel like to you? Okay. Then once you do that, you'll want to imagine what you think their aura looks like. So again, envisioning a band of energy all around their body. And what would this look like? Okay. Picture, is it bright? Is it dim? What color do you picture? And I just want you to imagine it in your mind. What color comes to mind? What's the first thing that pops up when you try to envision a band of light around them? Does it feel bright and warm and welcoming, or does it feel dull and dim and dense, right? What does it feel like as you're sitting next to them? And again, that could really depend on if you're picking up that perhaps this individual is not in a good mental state in that moment. You will pick up on that. You will feel that about them, right? But if you can see that they're absolutely radiant and glowing, right, you're going to see, right, that aura is bright and open and porous. right? And so you can see this. And again, remember that colors mean different things for everyone. So if you're doing this with a friend and you see one color and they see a different color, it doesn't mean that one of you got it wrong. It just means that that color, you attribute that color a different meaning to a different color. And so, yeah, I want you to trust what does the color mean for you and go by the feeling a little bit more. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, start with a feeling, right? What does the person feel like to you? What would you describe their personality as? Or how would you describe their energy in that moment? Do they feel sad? Do they feel happy? Do they feel bright and bubbly or airy and fairy or solemn and thoughtful, right? Like what would you describe their energy as? And then can you then envision a band of light around them? What color would that be? Okay. So give it a try, guys. It's really not that hard and it's a really fun intuitive development game to play. So that's sort of picking up on people's auras. Now, I would really want to talk about this is a big one. People always ask me, how do you cleanse your aura? If it's not in alignment, or I'm seeing some lint on there, right? Some black bulbs around, there's some gray in there or some black, and I'm not in alignment, right? What do I do? Or if I picked up some other people's energy, how do I cleanse it? Now, there are probably more ways than this that I'm about to share with you, but these are sort of the three main ways that spirit guides have suggested to clients of mine in our sessions that I have found to be very effective for both them and myself. So I'm going to just share these three. That doesn't mean it's an exhaustive list. There are definitely more ways of doing this, but these are the ones that tend to emerge the most in my client sessions. So the first one is quite simple and possibly probably the most well known is that you can use sage or Palo Santos. And so you can light some sage or light some Palo Santos and literally kind of pretend to clean your aura, clean the energy space around your body. So you can hold that sage or hold that Palo Santos with the smoke, right? You light it until the flame burns out and that it's actually smoking. And then you could kind of use the smoke to cleanse your aura and put that smoke all around the outside of your body. Some people like to use a feather and they'll literally pretend to brush off the energy with the smoke from their aura. I've seen that done quite a bit and it's really fun. You can just grab a feather from nature or buy one from, an esoteric store. They have some really beautiful ones, and you can literally make the motion of brushing or cleansing your aura using the smoke as the quote unquote soap or shampoo. But even if you don't have that and you just have, a little bundle of sage or a Palo Santo stick and you just get it really nice and smoky, you can just use the smoke and kind of draw it around the outside of your body with the motion or the intention of it cleansing and clearing your emotional body, your energy body, and clearing your aura. So that's one way you can do it. The other one, the second way that guides often share is immersing yourself in water. Now, they've showed me this in a few ways depending on the person, and they suggest sort of all of these depending on what's accessible to you. So this can be as simple as washing your hands under the sink, right? Just your hands. Sometimes the guides will suggest using salt water because when you think of salt, salt is like salt of the earth, right? It's very grounding. And so if you've been around a lot of extra energy and a lot of other people, right, there's too much energy. We need to kind of ground. And so you can rub salt between your hands and then rub your hands under the water. And that can be a very grounding experience. But you can also take a shower, right? And that's you just standing under the faucet again with the intention that the water is pouring over me and washing away any extra energy that I may have picked up from other people. This and the intention is everything, and that can be just as effective. Sometimes the guides will suggest again using salt, and so taking an Epsom salt bath and literally bathing in the water. So any sort of means of immersing yourself in water. This can also look like jumping in the ocean or jumping in the lake. Again, always with the intention of I'm doing this with the intention of cleansing my aura and releasing any extra energy that does not belong to me that I may have picked up along the way, the lint that's stuck to my lint roller, so to speak, and cleaning it off. This was really interesting for me, the cleansing with water, because this is actually a ritual that's customary in Judaism. And this is something that, like, having seen it enough times from my spirit guides and then learning about it in my own religion, that in Judaism, it's actually customary that as soon as you wake up in the morning, before you do anything else, you're supposed to go and wash your hands. And there's a special cup and a special way that you're supposed to to wash your hands, but it's with the understanding that you are cleansing off any unwanted energy that you may have picked up in your sleep, depending on who you were sleeping around or where your soul has traveled in your sleeping state. And so, in the process of traveling, your soul may have picked up on some energy, or your aura may have. And so, it's important in Judaism that the second you wake up, you go and you cleanse your energy, you cleanse your aura so that you get to start with a clean slate and not bring with you into the day all of the things that your soul has done while you were sleeping, right? The traveling that it has done or energy it may have picked up in your dream state. And so I always found that really, really cool. Sometimes when religions sometimes know these things, and then the esoteric world kind of catches up to it. So just wanted to share that particular little tidbit and piece. And so I personally have started to use that ritual myself and just done it the way that I had been taught in my religion. Never done it before, until I started working with guides, and I was like, well, they're telling everybody to wash their hands, so why not just do it every day, first thing in the morning? And then I will do the same thing after I channel for a person. Anytime I channel somebody's guides or loved ones, I will go ahead and cleanse my aura afterwards, just in case I picked up on anybody else's energy in our client session. And I will do this depending, I will either wash my hands with soap and or salt, and or use sort of the ritual Judaic cup that you're supposed to use to wash your hands. And then at the end of the day, I will always, without fail, before I go to sleep, even if it's just for 30 seconds, I will take a shower, with the intention of rinsing off any energy that I may have picked up from other people throughout the day. And again, so that I can sleep soundly and start with a clean, fresh slate the next day. So yeah, just thought I would share that. And then the final way of cleansing your aura that spirit guides have shared is that you can actually do this through a visualization meditation. And so this is where, I mean, I would argue that I don't know if I want to say better, but sometimes faster more effective sometimes to use a physical thing like Palo Santos or immersing oneself in water. But if those things aren't available for you, or you want something that's a little bit more mentally cleansing as well, then using a meditation is a perfect way to do so. And often you will visualize yourself sitting under a waterfall, right? And watching as the water washes over you and washes away any unwanted or negative energy that may have stuck to your aura. Sometimes I will also see in meditations that the spirit guides kind of channel through me that you're sitting in front of a fire and the fire melts away any negative energy that may have stuck to you from the day. So either of those two is really, really effective. Just close your eyes and imagine, right? Imagine that it's washing off of you. And again, intention is everything. You could do all of these things and not think about it, and it would not necessarily be effective. But if you go into it with intention, and the intention is to cleanse your aura, to clean your energy body, and make sure that you are not holding on to the negative energies of other people that you may have surrounded yourself with, then any of these can be really effective. So highly recommend any of those three, give them a try. And I always say, how do you know if you picked up on energy from other people? Your guides will always share with me that you've picked up on energy from other people if you feel kind of not yourself, and maybe you're feeling upset or sad or angry, and situationally nothing has happened to um, clue you in as to why. So, yeah, if you are feeling sort of really not yourself, or you're kind of feeling really sad or really agitated, and you can't really figure out why, then the better question is not what happened that's making me feel this way, but rather who have I been around recently and whose energy have I been in the presence of? And that's a pretty good indication that perhaps your aura has picked up on other people's energy bodies and energy fields, and that you are in need of a good aura cleanse. And then you would apply one of these rituals. So that's everything that I have to share about your auras. At the end of the day, reading your aura is a really beautiful tool that can be used to gauge how your emotional, physical, and spiritual body are all cohabitating with each other and communicating with each other. It can help you gauge if you're in alignment and reflect back to you if something is off. So really, guys, make sure that you cleanse and take care of your aura. Practice reading it. It's a really great tool and way for you to work on and strengthen your intuitive gifts. And I wish you a beautiful rest of the week as you go into a beautiful weekend. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now. And so if you find yourself around, in the presence of a lot of people who are really stewing over a lot of the current events going on at the moment, then definitely I hope that you're able to use some of these tactics and techniques to help protect yourself from the auras and energies of other people. I do want to finally remind you that I did open up a few more spots for my um for client sessions. So if you did want to have me sit there and read your aura, we could definitely do that. But otherwise, I wish you a beautiful rest of the weekend and have a beautiful one, guys. Bye.